Hey, are you guys following the AEW, American Elite Wrestling? It's very interesting because I despise everything they're doing. It's a complete piece of crap as a show, but they're competing against the WWE, which is a bigger piece of crap as a show. Probably not true. Probably equal, but just garbage, right? It's just garbage what they're putting out. And it seems like such an opportunity. Let's back up. Here's the deal. Professional wrestling does not exist anymore. Hasn't existed since definitely over by 1992, but on its way out the door, much more like 89. And then some of the height of it was more in the very late 70s. Here's the difference. Professional wrestling was a show that was designed to look like two guys competing with one another, that had an actual grudge and were looking to settle a dispute. Very similar to mixed martial arts, the difference being they are cooperating. They're just not going to appear that they're cooperating. And then you had the most basic script, which was good guy versus the bad guy. Works every time. Works in every television show, every book, every play, and every movie ever made. It's a great script. One guy you cheer for, one guy you cheer against. We get it. Simple. Bring it on. Somewhere over time, the wrestlers wanted to show that they were more athletic. They were real athletes. They could hit backflips. They could climb up on the top rope and come off. Somewhere over time, they wanted to show that they could entertain. So you had the steel folding chair, which frankly always works. And if you've ever fooled around with a steel folding chair, it does not hurt. It's an easy prop that's sitting ringside. It's metal. It looks dangerous, and it makes a really loud noise. Okay, great. That was as far as they ever needed to go for me. Why they started getting into ladders, bottles, barbed wire, tables, which is now just an absolute constant every night of wrestling, I don't really know. I watched it happen, and I watched better athletes come in that were leaner, some of them even smaller than what we were used to, and they could do more things athletically. A lot of it's aerobatics and things along this line, but I got it. Then somewhere in the late 90s, they brought the luchadors to America. Now, these guys were so fun, but they were a totally different end of the spectrum, where they were going about 140 to 150 pounds. And it was all moonsaults and flips and coming off the top rope and landing on a guy in the third row. All this insanity, but that's what it was. They openly let you know. They didn't even call it wrestlers. They didn't even call it entertainment, which they were doing by that time. They called it the luchadors. So you knew specifically what that marketing and branding was going to bring you. And there was some techniques and some holds and some maneuvers that were so fast-paced and so shocking because they were never seen before. There was something to see, and you would throw one of those on a card. Maybe you'd throw two or a tag team match on an entire card. It was a specialty act. And now somewhere over time, it's just the higher level of ridiculousness you can get to. For some reasons, the fans like it. So I don't get to come out and tell you this is a real piece of crap when they're selling out arenas in record time. That would make me the oddball. Hey, Chael, how come you're not getting this? Why are you not catching on? It would just seem to me that if you had some of the budgets that you have now, some of the exposure and the marketing and the networks that you have now, but you could still make it professional wrestling, which is much better. Evident of every movie, book, play, and story ever told. Good guy versus bad guy. White hat versus black hat. Heat versus cheers. It just seems like you would have something better than the ridiculousness that they do now. Now they don't even hide it. There's nothing believable about it. They don't even want you to believe it. They just want you to sit there and be entertained. It's ridiculous. I'm stunned that people are entertained by it. I can remember the ECW days that was just violent and gruesome, self-mutilate. I mean, barbed wire. These guys were wrestling in barbed wire, and so many people in the audience that are watching it, choosing to cheer for it, enjoy that. We're suspending reality so far, thinking we're seeing a show, and this is all well scripted with Hollywood entertainers and stunts and effects and fake blood, and that barbed wire is probably as soft as can be, but boy, it sure looks right. They didn't realize, no, man, there's none of those things. That's actual barbed wire picked up from the hardware store. These guys aren't in SAG. They're not in SAFTA. They're not protected in the least. They are mutilating themselves, and you're cheering for it, which means they're going to come back and do it again next week as long as you're going to come back and cheer for it. That was the disconnect from the audience, and many people still aren't there to this day. They still don't realize what they were watching, even in the day when they were watching and cheering for ECW. So now you've got this new era, American Elite, AEW, I always wanted to call it AWE, AEW. And yeah, they still got some performers who know exactly what they're doing. The Chris Jerichos that are come out there, they're going to be athletic, they're going to go hard. In between, they're going to entertain the hell out of you, but they're never going to insult you. They're never going to come out and do something crazy and ridiculous that nobody wants to see. It's not going to go out there and do a hold in a technique that you couldn't at least make believe would actually work in an actual fight, which is what this is being portrayed as. It's a very weird thing to see what happens. My evidence that I'm right, though, is that the Saudis are now bringing in WWE, paying a ton of money, creating all sorts of havoc amongst the locker room for the guys that are chosen and given these huge paydays and getting to go to Saudi Arabia. It's all the old dogs. And so many people are making the misconception that, well, these guys are older, which just means they've been around longer, which just means they've got more exposure, which just means they're bigger stars. And that's what the Saudis want. So I'm looking at going, not so fast. All of those things are true. However, those older guys with the older mindset are still coming out and following the recipe that I'm laying out for you now, which is that it is professional wrestling, not sports entertainment. It is a good guy versus a bad guy. We both want to win. We are going to go out there and make this look competitive, even though it's cooperative and everybody knows it. We're going to make it look competitive. Because while we ask our fans to suspend reality, we do not want to insult our fans by forcing them to just let go of all forms of reality. It would just seem to me that it would be better. I feel like I have proven my point with that. I'll see what you guys think, but I feel like I have. I've seen this in other walks of life. Whenever I come through television, it doesn't matter if I was on the set for a big motion picture or a commercial, anybody in TV that's ever seen a camera in their life will stand tooth and nail and battle you that The Sopranos was a great show, even though it was garbage. I feel when I tell you it was garbage that I can then prove it to you, which always stumps them and infuriates them. But there are great shows out there. Cheers, Seinfeld, The Office. I could tell you a lot of really great shows out there that went on to do great in syndication, that went on to do great on In Demand, that went on to make box sets back when people were into DVDs and were selling them off the shelf. I cannot show you anybody who has ever rewatched a rerun of The Sopranos on their own. I have never met that person. I have met the person that will tell you how that was captivating TV and wonderful. Not one of those actors is working today because they were terrible. I don't know of any of those writers that are writing today. I don't know that the director's directing today. You would think the director's directing the biggest things in Hollywood, and that's why everybody feels compelled to kiss his ass the way that they do. But I cannot show you a person yet who has ever gone out on their own and sought out a rerun of The Sopranos. The Office has not been on the air in years. Netflix announced they're going to leave it on Netflix service for another 2 years and then pull it, and there is an outrage. People are worried they cannot get their fix of The Office, an old syndication that they have had access to for years. They're worried that they won't be able to get it after the year 2021, and the outrage has already began. That's a great show. I've never met a person, and this is a challenge to you guys, in case any one of you, when I started this, raised your hand and go, The Sopranos was awesome. How dare you say that? Okay, great. Have you ever gone back and rewatched it? Ever? Do you own the box set? Have you talked into your remote control? Have you gone into the search engine? Have you ever refound it and whatever? No, you didn't, because you didn't like it the first time. You just wanted to be part of the conversation that somehow bullied its way into American culture, make believing that that piece of crap was a good show.